Welcome, everyone, to the 5,366th meeting of the Rotary Club of San Jose. I would like to thank our greeting line hosts, the Rotary Play Garden Committee, and if you were here a little earlier, you saw photographs from their event last night at the Play Garden with Parents Helping Parents. I couldn't be there because it was my daughter's birthday, but you know, those things happen. And speaking of things happening, last Friday, as I mentioned, we had the cornerstone of the Arts Awards. If you have a chance, you can come see the award that the Rotary Club of San Jose received for our Lee Weimer's Emerging Artist Awards. It's right up here with a commendation from the city of San Jose. After today, we'll have that at the Gordon House where you can see it later. So yes, congratulations to all of you for making that happen. Also, on a sad note, Joan Corsilia, wife of our member Vic Corsilia and related to other members of ours and a good community person, passed away this morning after a long illness. So our thoughts are with the Corsilia family. And with that, I would like to introduce or have our traveling microphone Red Badgers introduce themselves. Let's see, we're going to start on my right this time.
Good afternoon, President Sal. My name is Robert Davis, and I work at San Jose State as the Veterans Counselor Certifying Official, and my sponsor is Catherine Tompkinson. Today, I brought a guest, Daniel Anigas, one of my students. He graduates this December, and he will be applying to Santa Clara County Law, or Santa Clara University Law School in the fall.
Welcome. And Ravinder.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ravinder Lal. I'm with the UPS store. I do all of your shipping and printing. My sponsor is Deanna Persai. Amazing, and thank you. Happy to be here.
Great, thank you. Okay. So Rotarians, visiting Rotarians and Rotarians with guests, please stand up so you can introduce.
President Sal, I'm Norm Holberg, real estate appraising. I have three guests. I'm only going to introduce two of them at this moment. Anna Bonifacio is our office manager, and Yulia Ferguson is an appraiser trainee with our company.
Thank you, Norman. I know we'll get to your third guest a little bit later.
Hi, President Sal. Stephanie Renal, architect, public, co-ed architecture. My guest today is Dr. Clover Codge. She's the superintendent of Moreland School District.
Fantastic. Welcome.
Hi, Sal. Good afternoon, President Sal. I have several guests with me here today because I'm kind of stacking the decks in case, in case I tank. With me today is Notre Dame's Director of Student Leadership, Tanisha Fitzgerald. And also Susanna Garcia, Assistant Head of School. And I've brought our student leadership team with us, and they're going to stand up and introduce themselves. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Marina, and I'm ASB Service Commissioner.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Suhani Chaudhary, and I'm the ASB School President at Notre Dame.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brooklyn Morales, and I'm the ASB Vice President.
Hello, my name is Nika Zufan, and I'm School Spirit Commissioner.
Hi, everyone. I'm Neve Regan, and I'm the Student Life Commissioner.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sujani Srinivasan, and I'm ASB Big Little Sibling Coordinator.
Hello, I'm Brianna Biddle, and I'm ASB School Secretary.
Hello, I'm Annaleo Yoa, and I am ASB's Athletic Commissioner.
Welcome to all of you, and we hope we're giving you a good reason to not be in school right now.
Good afternoon, President Sal. Celeste Drake, Nonprofit Division of Heritage Bank. My guest today is Victoria Mim. She's a credit analyst with Heritage Bank's Palo Alto Division.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for coming, Victoria.
Hi, President Sal. Heather Lerner, Chief Development Officer, Boy Scouts. I have my permanent guest, Jay Alexander, magician, mentalist, all-around great guy.
Jay Alexander, always good to see you.
Thank you. James Williams with Opera San Jose. I'm pleased to introduce a guest today, Chad Peavy. He is an author and an executive coach. and he just relocated to San Jose from Austin instead of, so it's a nice
How
change.
that happens. We're getting all the smart people from Texas, so.
Good afternoon,
I like that.
President Sal. Good afternoon, Mike Coniff, formerly San Jose State, now retired. I'm very happy to introduce one other student here. We've got a bunch of students, but my student from San Jose State is Aisha Moten. She is the president of the Rotaract Club for this year. So she represents about 15 students who have joined the Rotaract. They're active in many of our projects around town. So please welcome Aisha Moten.
Aisha, welcome, and thank you for being part of Rotaract.
Hi, President Sal. Deanna Persai from College of Adaptive Arts. We have some more San Jose State students. We have two lovely students from the International House. Blossom from Sri Lanka, who's studying economics, freshman year, and Sushmita studying business entrepreneurship, freshman year as well, in the International House.
Fantastic. Go Spartans.
Mr. President, Fernando Sasueta, past president, I introduce to you Richard Flanders, our past district governor, visiting today.
Wonderful to have you here, Richard. Always an honor.
President Sal, Scott Neese, Association Professional Trade. My guest is the new San Jose Downtown Association CEO, Alex Stasinski.
Alex, great to have you here. We hope we see more of you. All right, seeing no one else, thank you all for being here and on Zoom. Next, I'd like to bring up Clarence Stone, who's pinch hitting for Dave Davis today, to talk to us about our annual campaign. And you're going to be hearing about this a lot, so get used to it.
Thank you all. I appreciate it much, Sal. Thank you so much for giving the time today. And by the way, the meetings have been fun, really fun. Thank you. So I'm here to talk with you about the annual campaign and your foundation. So I'll get right to it. I've got 3 minutes, so let me just do this. Your foundation, which funds our club's activities, has essentially 3 sources of revenue. It has the annual campaign, it has the gala, and then it also has income derived from our permanent endowment in the form of dividends and interest. That fundamentally are the 3 sources of revenue that our club uses to do the beautiful work that it does in our community. On the expense side or the giving side, there's essentially 3 sources as well. And those sources are, we give to our committees, $140,000, $150,000 a year, of which they do their wonderful work. And then we also secondarily fund community grants. And let me just scroll to those. Here's the community grant recipients from last year, of which we doled out $150,000 to. And by the way, those community grants, those are San Jose-based organizations, small nonprofits that really need our resources and do the good work that we do. Then the third expense or contribution or community side is we fund our next big project. So those are the 3 expense side. So that gets me back to the annual campaign. I know you've all heard me jump up and down about it. Our annual campaign, it represents about 30% of the revenue that we all use to do the wonderful work we do in our community. Without it, our club isn't really sustainable. And in years past, the annual campaign participation rate was 85, 90%. The last 5 years, it's been 50%. We all can, I'm sure, afford the $400. And the reason it's down to 50%, we figured it out. It was a messaging issue. There were some folks talking about it being voluntary. It's not. It's a commitment we as Rotarians make to the club to do the good work that we need to do in our community. So we fixed the messaging problem, but now we have to fix the revenue side of it. If you just simply do the math, it's 400 people, 200 don't contribute, that's $80,000 a year of resources that don't go to our community. So I'll stop there, please. I know you've got from the foundation board your annual campaign invoice. It's $400. Please pay it. Please pay more if you can. And please help us fix the messaging that this is an expense that isn't voluntary, but it's our commitment to our community that we're going to do through Rotary. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Clarence. And, honestly, if you really need to understand how important what we do is for our community. When I was at the Cornerstone of the Arts Awards on Friday, I ran into Tamara Alvarado, who has gone on to a great career in philanthropy herself, but was the executive director of MACLA, the Latino Arts Gallery downtown. And she said she was partly there to support Rotary because of the community grant we gave MACLA back when they opened their Black Box Theater and they needed equipment for it. And that came from us. She still remembered that. That was at least a dozen years ago, if not longer. So this really makes a difference that the community remembers. So please do what you can to contribute this year. Yeah, there's some of this. So next I'd like to call up our historian in chief, Bill Schroed, to take a look back with us in this last week of October. Bill, come on up.
Thank you, Sal. This week, I'd like to talk about the froffle. Does anyone know what a froffle is? Okay. The froffle. It is a short term for frozen waffle. Whoops. Okay. So the year was 1953. That was the year that's, yeah, is that better? Sorry. The year was 1953, and Swanson had created the TV frozen dinner. That same year, three brothers, Frank, Sam, and Anthony Dosa, began to experiment with the waffle business. They'd already created a very popular selling 100% fresh ranch eggs mayonnaise that they were selling in San Jose in the 1930s. And in 1938, they purchased the Garden City Potato Chip Factory and began making all types of foods, including noodles, salad dressings, pretzels, and syrups. One of the products they began to experiment with was how to make better waffles. They ended up creating a dry tin mix that was all you need to do was add milk. This mix became so popular, many of the local restaurants and hotels, including Stanford University, were started to use their product. In '53, Frank created a giant rotating carousel equipped with a slew of waffle irons. The waffles cooked as the carousel rotated. The machine enabled the factory to crank out about 1,000 waffles an hour. The waffles were then frozen. The Dorser brothers started to sell the frozen waffles under the brand name Froffles. The frozen waffle came at just the right time when people in America were starting to buy frozen foods and making them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. In '55, the Dorsals realized that most of their customers were calling their waffles Eggos because of their eggy taste. So they decided to change the name from Froffle to Eggo. The Kellogg Company purchased the Eggo Company in 1968, and in 1962 created the advertising slogan that we all know so well, "Let go my Eggo." Now, strangely though, Kellogg decided to discontinue the Eggos in 2021. They claimed that it was not selling enough for them to make them, but they brought them back about 6 months later after the demand was there. So.
Thank you, Bill. I'm not going to say I had them for breakfast this morning, but they are in the freezer. And I know that that story was not news to two people in our audience, Trisha Crisa Valencia and Norm Klein, who I think did an entire documentary about the Eggo waffle. So always fun to hear about that. And San Jose, of course, does have an Eggo Way, where the plant was off of 101. Okay, coming up next, Norm Holberg is going to introduce his third guest, and we will hear her story. Norm, take it away.
Thank you, Sal. We read in the paper every day about what's going on in Ukraine. It's, of course, not pretty. Today, rather than the big picture, we hear the personal story. Anastasia is here on a humanitarian refugee visa sponsored by her godmother, Yulia, who met earlier. She's working a little part-time for my company. And let's hear what you have to say, Anastasia.
Good afternoon. First of all, thank you for the invitation and for the opportunity to talk about my country. My name is Anastasia. I was born and grew up in Ukraine in the beautiful historic city of Poltava. It's located east of Kyiv and west of Kharkiv. At the beginning of 2022, the population of the Poltava region was about 280,000, and it has always been a mix of Ukrainians and Russians, and people spoke both languages fluently. Like many other families, my family is half Ukrainian and half Russian, and we also spoke both languages at home. And it has never been a problem until February 21st, 2022, the day when history changed forever for Ukraine, for Europe, and maybe even for the rest of the world. On that day, I woke up from the noise at home. It was my grandma talking to the neighbors. When I asked her what happened, she told me that the war has started and that Russia has already attacked and bombed several cities that were near Poltava. Our TV was always turned on 24/7. After several hours in front of TV, we decided, just in case, to go to the grocery store and pharmacy. When we got there, we couldn't believe that most of the goods were already sold out. We packed our luggage with clothes, food, water, and documents. We slept with our clothes on. When the air alarm turned on, we went down to the basement. We almost didn't leave our house. From 6 p.m., we did a blackout to disorientate the enemy. We hung the blankets on windows. We also tapped the windows to avoid a glass shattering. Due to recent attacks, people can use water, electricity, and gas only during certain hours by schedule. On April 21st, 2022, the United States announced a rescue program for Ukrainians fleeing Russia's invasion. My godmother Yulia submitted the application to get a permit to enter the United States as a refugee. I will never forget my first international trip alone. My mother and I had to take bus to Warsaw because there is no operating airport open in Ukraine. The road from Poltava to Warsaw is 616 miles, but it took us 28 hours to get there. We didn't know if we were able to get it done. When we got closer to Kyiv, we saw the consequences of Russian attacks on civilians. Ruined buildings, destroyed forests, burned cars, and huge holes through the buildings. When my mother brought me to the airport, I didn't know if I see her again, as she had to come back home to Ukraine along the same road. I arrived in San Francisco on June 17th. It was like a miracle. I couldn't believe that there are no sirens and people could walk at night and eat in restaurants. There is a curfew in my city from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. I exceedingly miss and worry about my family. So thank you for the attention, for your interest in Ukraine, and for having me here today.
Thank you, Anastasia, for sharing your story. We've been talking about the situation in Ukraine for months. We've given a lot of money to relief efforts there, and I think it's really important for us to see who that is actually helping. So thank you for sharing that. On the subject of internationalism, our members travel around the world quite a bit, and we are fortunate when they can bring back some stories from their visits, and especially their visits to other Rotary clubs. So I'd like to invite Alfreda Egon to come talk to us about her trip to Ghana. Alfreda.
Thank you, President Sal, and good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. And by the way, I am Alfreda Egan, not Octavia, as I've been referred to by some people. Yeah, so I was in Ghana a couple of months ago for a family affair, and I decided to visit a couple of Rotary clubs to find out whether I can find some clubs to partner with for an international global project with our International Services Committee group. Luckily, Leslie gave me a couple of flags to share in one of the meetings so that at least I will go as a visiting Rotarian from San Jose. So during my visit, I went to one of the club meetings, and what happened is that they were sharing what their experiences were and the challenges that they were facing. And one of them was that of recruiting, which is very common to all Rotary clubs. They had a challenge recruiting people below the ages of 40. So I shared with them that we had the same problem. Now, that's when this signpost comes in. So what they've done is actually have these signposts along the roadside in Accra, the capital city, with a four-way sign, with a four-way test, on there. So they've been very successful in actually drawing and branding Rotary and drawing curiosity and presence of mind, and people actually do follow up to find out what Rotary is all about. Even though Ghana, with a population of 33 million, has about 40 Rotary clubs, with 30 of them in the capital city. So it's very, very active, but yet they still have challenges in recruiting. So this is a very good idea. I don't know if we can do that in San Jose, but it's been very effective over there. So next slide. Here is a meeting, where I attended, and as you can see, they have flags from all over the world, and they display this in all of their meetings just to show how worldwide and how connected they are across the whole world. And Rotarians in Ghana take this very, very seriously. Most of the well-to-do and affluent people actually belong to Rotary, and they undertake several global projects every year. So I was actually trying to get their input and to see if they can find a club to partner with me in San Jose. And we're successful in identifying a club that's going to be doing that. And what they did was to actually help me through the initial process of putting together a proposal for a global project, hopefully next year. And here is me and the secretary of the club, Accra Rotary, Airport Rotary Club, exchanging flags. And here is a flag that I received from them that I'm going to present to President Sal. So this flag is going to be part of the tapestry of flags that they display, so that San Jose will be on record as visiting Accra Airport.
Thank you, Alfredo. And we will put that on display at the Gordon House, so you can see that along with our award. Next up, I'd like to invite past District Governor Richard Flanders to come to the stage with a special presentation. Richard, thank you for joining us.
The best part of being a district governor is becoming a past district governor. So we only have 2 emails instead of 100. To the young lady from Ukraine, we just led a delegation from this district to Serbia and Romania last month. And we were distributing wheelchairs in those 2 countries. And we were received at the Royal Palace by the Prince and Princess of Serbia. And during state launch, the princess requested some help for Ukraine. So as we speak today, Ukraine is getting 1 container wheelchairs from the Wheelchair Foundation and from us, because I met with the Wheelchair Foundation president last week. So. Being a district governor, you really have about 184 people serving at the district level. I'm here to recognize some of them. I know that Gary Shera served as assistant governor, Brenda Sweeney, Karen Fox, Rod Deridan, Diana Persay. Incidentally, the only person that showed up who worked at the district level is Ed Correa. I guess they're hiding from me, even though I'm not trying to give them any jobs. But there were 62 club presidents last year in our districts because we have 62 clubs. And all did a great job because we had a very successful Rotary year last year. However, there are about 10 club presidents in the district who distinguished themselves. This man led this club to sustain membership in a difficult pandemic year. And this club last year did a lot of community service as evidenced by the report. I recall Rotary Play Garden, the Health Center and Clinic for the Homeless, Lee Weimer's Emerging Artist Awards. And I was touched when Mike Conniff sent a YouTube video yesterday to me showing the Roy Russell School in Vietnam. For many years, Mike, Roy, and we used to hang out at a Vietnamese restaurant, and Roy would be singing Vietnamese songs on the microphone, and I miss those days. I know that your club also distributed 1 container of wheelchairs to Mexico City. Josh Burrow led that, and I know that Elizabeth Munley did a lot of disaster relief response all over the world. And Rod Dearden and Deanna did Climate Action Committee in our district. And your club last year gave $44,000, $735 to the Rotary Foundation. So it was a big job for a club president last year. I'm here to thank your club president for the year 2021-2002, and I'm presenting him with a Distinguished Club President Award. Please welcome Steve Borkenhagen. Steve, I know that it's all the club, but you were the leader, so I want to present this Distinguished Club President Award to you for being the club president last year.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I can tell you, Steve, you deserve every honor you can get, doing this job myself. All right, we're going to run through a few things coming up. Of course, we've got our Thanksgiving program coming up in just a few weeks on November 16th. So please contact Lenore if you would like to participate. Do we need a lot of people there? Lenore, are you getting some good response? Okay, so we'd like to get a few more people. So please contact Lenore. Of course, this weekend on Saturday, the Unhoused Impact Committee could use more volunteers for hygiene kit assembly at Block Construction. Contact Sarah Janigan if you want to help out. And we, of course, got our Military Care Committee, which you saw outside again today, tabling, trying to get those cards signed for veterans. They'll be leading our Veterans Day Parade effort. We need to know who can ride in our trolley. So we want to make sure we have room for everyone and that we don't leave anyone out. So if you are a veteran and plan to ride with us, please let Catherine Tompkinson know, or Dave Silva. I believe we'll be taking signups in the lobby as well. And just a quick reminder for next week, we will be ringing the bell. So bring your good news and you'll be contributing to the endowment with that. And now at this time, he just sat down, but I'd like to welcome back up Steve Borkenhagen to introduce this week's speaker.
He said I could have the podium for the rest of the year. Thank you, Sal. Mary Beth Riley has been a friend of mine for maybe 30 years or so. We met sometime in the 90s. She has 4 children. I have 4 children. They were all about the same age. They all had similar backgrounds. It was really actually a bizarre coincidence. The kids were the same age, went to the same schools. It was fascinating. We became fast friends. I've been a huge fan of Mary Beth's for many, many years. She was a French teacher at Notre Dame, then moved into a number of leadership positions, is now head of school, and I think Mary Beth's retiring soon, but I'll let her talk about that. Wasn't it wonderful to see these young women here? A lot of research shows that single gender education for women in particular is very important, and you could just hear the confidence and the joy in their voices. So ladies, welcome again. It's so good to see you. Notre Dame opened in 1851, so over 150 years, been in downtown San Jose. My mother graduated from Notre Dame in 1939, my girlfriend Taryn in 1979, my daughter Melissa in 2001. So my family has a long history with the school, and every chance I get to go over there, I'm moved. So every chance you have when you get invited, go visit the school. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Mary Beth Riley.
Hello, and thank you. Thank you for inviting me and entertaining this today. It's truly an honor. It's been an honor to be part of Rotary, and it is particular to come and share with you some perspective on women in leadership. You've already met our student guard here. I'm glad to have them with me just in case I mess anything up. I know that they'll be on it to help me and correct me, and my colleagues too. So we're going to talk about women in leadership and developing women in leadership, something Notre Dame High School has been doing for the past 171 years here in San Jose. But I'm going to give you a little bit of a background first. So the origins of Notre Dame San Jose start in post-revolutionary France with a woman, Julie Billiart. She grew up in the northern French area next to the Belgian border. And Julie was a woman of great faith as she grew up from a young girl in the rural countryside. She was a woman of great faith in God and in goodness in the world. And I have to point this out because this is a time in France where Jansenism is very prevalent. And that wasn't so pretty. That was all about humans being bad and having to suffer for their sins. But Julie didn't believe that. She was a great believer in the goodness in each person. And Julie, as a young entrepreneur in France there, had three very bold things that she did. One, she had this revolutionary idea that she should educate young women. So young girls were not being educated, they didn't know how to read or write, and she thought that might be a good idea because then they could participate more in their lives. First, she had a great business model. She thought we can bring in students that have no asset, no access or opportunity to education, and then we can bring in young girls from families that do have asset and opportunity and blend them and build that model together. She also had a great sense of survival and who to partner with. So when in France, the bishop stood in her way and said, I don't think so, we don't need to do this, we don't need to build these schools for young girls, Julie packed up all her stuff and moved to Belgium to a much more accommodating bishop. So Julie Billiart started a ministry that exists today in 5 continents all over the world, and it's very strong. So how does this ministry get to San Jose? How do we get to California and being here today? Well, in 1843, a bishop in Oregon requested the sisters to come and work on a mission in Oregon to build schools and to educate the daughters of settlers, and also to build an orphanage for the indigenous population up by Portland. And that they did come. They got on a ship named the Indefatigable, and they traveled around the South America, and they got to Oregon, and they started that work. But shortly thereafter, the gold rush happened, and everybody left. All the settlers came to California, and the schools closed. And the bishop here in 1851, Bishop Alemany from the San Francisco area, invited the sisters to come and start a school here. So 2 sisters, Sister Loyola and Mary Catherine, came to San Jose with 25 cents in their pocket. And they started to build Notre Dame San Jose, which became the College of Notre Dame. And the College of Notre Dame educated girls from high school into their college and university years. And they educated what at that time was referred to as the Spanish Californians, and then settlers from the Europeans that came here. They were one of the founding educational institutions in San Jose, 1851, along with that other high school that some of you know, Bellarmine College Prep. And okay, and also the same date that the city of San Jose is founded. So Notre Dame San Jose, go Regents. Notre Dame San Jose begins a legacy of educating the women from this valley for now going on 172 years. The education in the beginning, Notre Dame, the location was right down by the San Pedro Square, right there on Santa Clara Street. There's a Notre Dame Avenue that you might have driven by. So that was the original location of this particular, was quite a large complex school. And the curriculum included things like, oops, skipped one, let me go back. The curriculum included like the arts and the humanities, well, let me see, let me go this way. The curriculum included arts, humanities, science, etc. And this would be one of our favorite graduating pictures. This is the class of 1896. So the campus was at that location until the 1920s. And then two things happened. One, Amanda O'Connor of the O'Connor, Miles and Amanda O'Connor, they were one of the first philanthropic families in San Jose, O'Connor Hospital, and there's some other institutions. They donated their mansion, which sat on 2nd and Reed Street, to the Sisters of Notre Dame so they could start an orphanage. Amanda O'Connor was very concerned about the orphans in San Jose. So the sisters moved to that location and started the orphanage. And then the original location down on Santa Clara Street, there was, I think, the first plant for the Mercury News. The first newspaper was kind of smelly. There was a fire. And the sisters inherited property up in Belmont from the Ralstons. So they moved the university up to Belmont, and then they moved the high school down to this location on 2nd and Reed, where we sit today. And there we've been for decades. Steve mentioned some of those to you, and here's some pictures from the 40s and the 50s, and let's see, there's the 60s with the bobby socks. It's a good one. Here's a picture of our graduation circa around sometime in the 50s, and we're at St. Joseph's, which is now the Cathedral Basilica of St. Joseph's. And I show you this picture of us being downtown San Jose to point out that being partners with the city of San Jose has always been important to us at Notre Dame San Jose. And that just gives testimony to that. So let's talk a little bit about why this focus on women's leadership and why it's important. So we're just going to take a dive down into looking at women in public service. This is just one sector. Let me just preface this with saying women are underrepresented in every professional sector. The average is about 20%, sometimes less. But I'm going to take a dive just today, just for the conversation, into public sector and leadership. And let's start with looking first at the national, and then we'll look at state, and then we'll look at city. So when we look at the national landscape, we can recognize Hattie Caraway, who was the first woman that was elected to the Senate from Arkansas. And she was not elected. She was first arrived at the Senate by power of the widow's mandate. In other words, her husband held the seat, and then her husband died, and then they appointed Hattie because they felt that was a safe position at that point in time from Arkansas. Hattie went on to be elected 2 more times, but she was the first woman, and that happened in 1932. Today, there are 24 women in the Senate, and that's 24%. So if we're going to just be kind of holding in our minds right now growth, trends and percentages. In terms of the House of Representatives, Jeanette Rankin was the first person elected, and she was elected in 1917 from the state of Montana outright elected, which is noteworthy because women didn't have the right to vote. Women didn't have the right to vote until 1920. So she's elected before women can even vote. And Jeanette says, I may be the first, but I will not be the last. And she was right. And today, over 100 years later, there are 28% of the House is women. So there has been growth, but it certainly has not been exponential. The first Speaker of the House, no matter where you sit politically, I want to note that the first Speaker of the House ever is Nancy Pelosi right now. So over the time that Jeanette gets elected to the House of Representatives, 100 plus years later, Nancy Pelosi serves as in that leadership role. There are currently 9 women governors, which is 18% of the states. And I'm going to note that Ketanji Brown Jackson is the first Black woman to serve as a Supreme Court justice. 4% of the justices have been women. Ketanji is the first woman of color. If we drill down, if we take women representation in leadership and we drill down for women of color, those numbers go down significantly. So I think I just throw Ketanji up there because I really admire her, and also because I think it underlines the point of representation for another group. So let's take a look at the state. The state of California, in the legislative body, 32.5% are represented by women. And that seems a little bit better than the national landscape, and it is. But it's not for California, it's not really, it's not striking. The average, state average for women representation in their legislative bodies is 31%. So we're just, doing slightly better. When we look at the city of San Jose, we have women in many leadership positions. I was so happy when I stepped into this Rotary group and met so many women from different constituent and different sectors. In terms of this top leadership position, the mayor of San Jose, we've had 2 women serving. The first was Janet Gray Hayes, which I'm sure many of you remember, 1975 to 83. I thought this was super interesting. When Janet was elected mayor, the majority of the council positions were also women, and San Jose was dubbed in some places as the feminist capital of the world. So I thought that, I don't know if you knew that, but I thought that was kind of fun, but it didn't last long. Janet was very progressive, forward-thinking. In her platform, she put forward urban planning, gay rights, the environment, work-life balance, and also a focus on women in politics. And then 20 years later, Susan Hammer was also served in this role and served well in this role. So I think for me, when I look at both the national and the state and the city representation, California, here in San Jose, we're doing about where everyone else is in terms of women represented in leadership positions for public service. So I'm going to take a peek. We're just going to take a moment to look at what does it look like in business. So we're going to look at some statistics for Fortune 500. And today, out of the Fortune 500 companies, only 15% of the CEOs are female. And that's up considerably from 2002 over the past 20 years, where there are only seven. So I'm going to just take a little pause here because I don't know if you're with me or not. I know they're with me, but I don't know if you all are with me or not. Thank you. Because I think a question I would ask now that you might be asking yourselves is, does it matter? Does it matter? Okay, so there's a lot of places where you could find some, thinking around why it would matter. People have proposed in this particular study that having women represented in these conversations, we would see more conversation about wage gap, changing policies, diverse workforce. And I think, those seem like, those could be good conversations. I think the question I always ask myself, being a woman in a leadership position and leading a women's institution and educating next decades, next groups of women leaders, is why is it taking so long? Why has it taken so long? Women represent 50% of the population. Why wouldn't they be 50% of leadership? Maybe they haven't aspired to get to positions like CEO, Fortune 500 companies, but what has been the access and opportunity? It's the same question we ask around people of color now that we're thinking about it. So if they were, this is kind of like looking back, if questions, if that was the case, what would the conversations be like today on national landscape, state, and regional? There is a movement right now. It's called the Women Public Service Leadership Movement. And the movement is that by 2050, 50% of leadership positions women will represent in 50%, 50 by 50. And I like this one too, because I'm an aspirational person. I'm in education. I always, we peddle hope. So I think, well, wouldn't that be great if by 2050, 50% of leadership positions were women? And I think about the trends we just looked at and the slow movement, and I'm a little discouraged. And I'm hoping that my students, the young women here, are not discouraged and that they get fired up and they continue to move forward. Because I do think it makes a difference. I think we certainly have evidence that it does. So where does that bring me back to Notre Dame San Jose, where we are? On the corner of 2nd and Reed. We have a commitment here. We've had a commitment here for over 170 years, and that's to educate young women. And we will do that until it doesn't matter, but it still matters. So we have a commitment to educate young women for leadership, for justice, for service. In 2020, we opened this new classroom building. The name of the building is the Center for Women's Leadership. We also have a commitment to be part of this city, to be a significant part of the city of San Jose, and to continue to partner with every agency, every public service, so that our students can understand the importance of all of what it takes to have a community grow, thrive, and be robust. So for 172 years, we've been educating women for justice and leadership, to be upstanders for good. Remember Julie? Good. Bring goodness into the world. We have had a commitment to partner with the city of San Jose, and we are committed to move the needle on representation. I thank you today for entertaining me and having me here, and I'm happy to answer any questions, but I'm also going to offer up my students in case anybody wants to ask them any questions. Thank you so much.
I'll try to be loud. Are you good?
Oh, thank you. When I went to law school, about 18 out of 330 students were women. Now it's more than half. In medical schools, I think it's half or more than half becoming doctors. Isn't that a sign that things are really changing in a dramatic way? I don't know what it is in business schools, but my guess is more and more women are going to take MBAs and other advanced degrees. That seems to me tremendous progress, and given that most politicians went to law school, it seems clear that the pendulum is moving dramatically in that direction. Do you not agree?
Thank you, Arthur. I do agree. I think the pendulum has moved in education for sure, and certainly in professional schools. More than half of the undergraduate populations are women. And certainly in the professional schools, that's certainly growing. I think we're going to have to be looking at how do women advance? So you've heard a lot of this kind of language. What is systemic in particular areas that will become obstacles or not? And what needs to change in terms of in the workforce? So who advances to partner? Who doesn't? So if we use the law school, So I think that's what we have to be watching. But I do think, sure, yeah, I think it's great. Those are great trends. Thank you.
Hi, this is Erica Gassaway. I've been struck recently by the news reports coming out of Iran and Afghanistan about the things going on with women, which is none very upsetting. But I'm wondering if you have anecdotally any stories from your colleagues in other countries about where things might be going particularly well or particularly not well.
Thank you. I like that question. I'm thinking we have a number of ministries in countries in Africa, in South America, and in England. I haven't heard anything recently, and I'm looking to my colleagues. Nothing that we've heard of. For most of us, our mission is around women's education. But I agree with you. Discouraging news. Discouraging news on many fronts in terms of the regard for women and their ability to participate in society and to make decisions for themselves.
Mary Beth, thanks so much. I just have always admired you like Steve has. Hey, I want to build on Arthur's comments. You were throwing some statistics up, and I'm lucky, I'm an engineer, and I work in a lot of the CSUs and UCs and some of the private legal colleges, and what he said is true. I lecture in some of these classes, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's so many women now that have taken over the attorney, economics, law, political science. But I lecture in engineering classes, and I was just reading when you were throwing statistics up, the most common CEOs are engineers. Most common CEOs are engineers. When I lecture in those engineering classes, 5%, 5 women out of 100, to this day, maybe 8. And so I want to encourage you young ladies, I'm telling you, in engineering, you can go anywhere and fast. So it's just a statement, Mary Lou, but that needs to improve. And until it does, I don't think you're going to see as many CEOs.
Thank you so much for your presentation. We wish you a bright career ahead. And I was interested to know what is the representation of interfaith groups in the form of admission of the students. Second is, what are the current challenges before Notre Dame High School? And third, what career are you looking for after your retirement? Thank you. Well, I'm Professor Baltesh Singh Maan. I'm faculty at San Jose State University. Thank you so much.
Interfaith, does anybody want to talk, anybody want to pick up our interfaith? Yeah, somebody? Yeah, go.
Hi, so I grew up in a Muslim household, but my parents, they didn't really teach me much about Islam growing up, and they wanted me to kind of learn more about faith and spirituality. So they thought it would be a great idea for me to attend Notre Dame. And actually through Notre Dame, I've learned like so much about religion and many different religions. We have the opportunity to take a world religions class, and so we learn a lot about different religions and how it impacts us. We also have different clubs on campus that allow us to keep on following our own like spirituality. There's like Muslim Student Association too. So there's many different ways that we can embrace spirituality at Notre Dame. Myself, I'm volunteering at a Methodist church as a Sunday school teacher. So I find that I can juggle a lot of different spiritualities as well. So I feel like Notre Dame gives a great opportunity for us to explore many different things too. Yeah.
Thank you, Nico. So the second question was, what challenges do we have? I don't know if anybody wants to feed me anything. I would say challenges are access and opportunity to be able to provide this education widely to students. When I say that we partner with the city, we are, we're over in Second Reed, located right in downtown San Jose. I'm getting cut off. No, not yet. But it's getting okay, so that's really advantageous because we have students that walk to school that live, south of us. We have students that bike that live to the east of us in the city. I think being able to blend and bring in students from just various different areas and sectors is a gift. We just have to make sure that we continue to provide that. I feel like that is a very big challenge. And something she's mumbling. What? Oh yeah, teacher pipeline. Yeah, teacher pipeline's big after the pandemic, and I'm sure you've read about that in the paper. So developing, recruiting, retaining good teachers is important. And teachers that want to be part of this program, you gotta, feel that passion for, not just for education, but for this particular group. And there was a third one. What am I doing next? I'm going to do this well until I walk away in June. Then I will continue to work for things that are very important to me, and that certainly will be the status of women here and abroad. Thank you.
My question is for the young women leaders. Obviously, you're taking the lead on advocating for yourselves and educating within our community and doing activism. What advice do you have for adults? Right now, in this moment, post-pandemic, y'all have gone through it. I've seen so much strength and resilience. What do we need to do to support you?
Hi, my name is Brooklyn. Thank you so much. I would say some advice I have is to listen to us. I think we have a lot to say. I think we are, working really hard. I think we're really educated women. But a lot of the time we don't get those spaces or we don't feel safe to speak up for ourselves. That's because of, the history, but a part of what Notre Dame is to create those spaces so that we feel safe. But I think in the greater scheme of things, in the greater world, we need, like Ms. Riley says, we need more women in leadership. We need more women to, feel represented. So I think it would mean a lot for you guys to listen to us, to take us seriously, because we are trying our best, to be justice advocates and to, speak up for ourselves. But it's hard because the history is sometimes we get shut down. Sometimes, people don't believe in us. So I think it would be to, listen and to believe in the younger generation, because we're the next step and we want to do the best, So yeah, thank you for your question too.
Steve Prouty.
Okay, so her statement goes right into what I was going to ask, which is what are the roadblocks to women moving in greater numbers into the C-suite and positions of leadership, and do you see those eroding, or are they just alive and horribly well?
So I'm not prepared to answer that, but I would say rhetorical question. You're all leaders in businesses and various sectors. What do you see as the roadblocks? Women in the room, what have been the roadblocks? You know that more.
Turn the mic on.
Myself or my students at this point. So I think it's a great question. I want to suggest as, head of school and principal, that you all go home and think about it. Homework.
Okay.
I think he's coming.
1:14, and we have 3 past presidents who all want to ask questions.
I'll go first. Tell us about the mix of different religions that are currently enrolled at Notre Dame, so that people do not have the understanding that it's strictly a Catholic school, but rather it's open to everyone of any
Creed? And also tell us whether you have in place a scholarship for those who cannot afford tuition.
Okay, this can be quick. We use the language Catholic in the 21st century a lot. And that is we have to call ourselves to iterate what that means and what that calls us to be. And that is to be inclusive. We have more than 50% of our student population that represent other religions or no religions. Same end game is to become good people in the world. So there's that, and yes, we support more than 25% of our students with support so that they can attend the school. Thanks, Fernando.
And from the opposite side here, Mr. Adams.
Just real
Beckman?
quick, as a representative of that other high school that was established in 1851, I just want to thank you, Mary Beth, for your leadership all these years, for the difference you've made for the young women at Notre Dame, and for the impact that Notre Dame students have had on our community. And God bless you going forward.
Wow, that would have been great to end on, but instead we've got Larry Stone.
You know, I had a conversation the other day with Sarah Cody, our health officer, asking about the social impacts of COVID, not the statistical impacts, but the social impacts. And she said education was the one thing that she felt the worst about, that the education was impacted by more than anything else by the COVID pandemic. She also suggested that maybe they made a mistake about closing all the schools when the private schools largely were open and the public schools were down. What do you think about that?
I do think that there's been a huge impact from COVID on the social, emotional well-being of all of our students. We certainly have been thinking about that and trying to address it since students returned to campus. You'd all agree with me? That's been a big lift. I think that all of education has been impacted by the pandemic. It was just a sad, sad moment. It was heartbreaking. So I think we're going to be unfolding that for years to come. We saw the statistics recently about the scores in California. I don't think we should feel bad about it. I just think we need to now, pick up again. But we have to live through that. We learned a lot from that. Maybe we didn't learn a lot of math, but we did learn a lot from that moment in time. And so the historical, kind of impact of that, like any huge historical event, is a great learning moment. Thanks, Larry. I know my students want to know why people booed. They all kind of grimaced, and I feel uncomfortable about that. So maybe Sal will explain it on our way out.
Okay. So Larry Stone, in addition to being a past president of this club, is the county assessor for Santa Clara County. So he tells everybody how much their houses are worth and therefore what their property taxes are going to be. So we're not always happy with them, especially right now when we have to pay them. But we are happy with Mary Beth. Thank you so much for being here. And thanks to your students for helping out. As you know, on behalf of all of you, a contribution is being made to the San Jose Jazz Aid Fund. So we appreciate that. We're going to take a picture in a moment, but next week we've got one of our favorite astronomers, Andrew Fracknoy, come talk to us about the James Webb Space Telescope. And as I said, we've got Ring the Bell, and he just left, but before he left, Bert George told me we're going to have wine next week too. So get here early. All right, meeting's adjourned.